Hi teachers! It's really hard to have a personalized learning classroom if you're not also implementing social emotional learning principles. In this video, I'll be sharing 3 actionable strategies you can use in your classroom, as well as 11 ways to implement those strategies. Hi, I'm Maria. I'm a design principal at Education Elements. At Education Elements, we help teachers, schools, and districts across the country implement personalized learning through an SEL and student-focused lens. So if you want to learn more about that, you can click on the link below, or you could go to our website at www.edelements.com. Okay, let's dig in. In this video, I'll be referencing the CASTLE framework for SEL and another resource called the Building Blocks for Learning from Turnaround for Children. Both of those are linked below if you want to learn more. In my experience, one of the toughest parts of doing a personalized learning classroom is the student reflection and student goal setting pieces. Today, we'll talk about how to make that a little bit easier. Number 1, and it's super important, build strong relationships with your students. I'll say it again because I cannot say it enough. Build strong relationships with your students. It's never too late or too early to focus on building strong relationships with every single kid in your class, or on repairing those relationships that may have become damaged at some point during the year. Some things you can do to get to know the students in your class a little bit better are: check yourself. Start with an inventory of how well you actually know all of your students. Do you know each of your students' names? Do you know how to pronounce their names? Do you know all of their last names? Can you name one thing that they like or that they dislike, right? Just check yourself. What do you actually know about your students as whole people? Create a survey and give it to them so that you can actually learn more. When I was a teacher, I used to do this on the first day of class, but it's equally important to do throughout the year as students change as people, and it lets them feel like they know that you want to get to know them as people. So you could create a Google form, you could create a form on Microsoft, or you could give an old-fashioned paper survey. But create a survey, get to learn more about them. Build a routine of culture building time. Maybe that's a daily morning meeting, or even just a couple minutes in the beginning of class when students can share about themselves and also learn about each other. You also get to learn about students through this process. If you're concerned that students are going to overshare or they're not going to know what to share, one thing you can do is use the traffic light metaphor. So green is something that you would tell somebody at the grocery store or someone that you just met. It's not very personal, it's just a fact about yourself that you would share with pretty much anyone. Yellow is something that you would share maybe with a closer friend or somebody you feel comfortable or safe with. And red are things that we are not sharing. So that means you have not processed it for yourself. It is either too raw or too recent, and we're not going to share the things that live in the red zone with the class. We're going to stick to either sharing things that are green or sharing things that are yellow. This also works great with adults, so if you're leading a PD session, you can introduce this and then they can take it back to their classrooms as well. Build assignments to learn more about students, families, and the people who are important to them. We know it takes a village to raise a child, so you can learn more about the students in your class by learning more about who that village is. Be vulnerable. You're asking students to share pieces of themselves with you and with each other. You should also be sharing little bits about who you are with them. Again, a great time to use the stoplight strategy. You can stick to the green and just share those green things, but you might also want to share things that are a little bit more vulnerable. Maybe they live in that yellow light territory with students. All of these activities not only support students' self-awareness, but also their relationship skills, which are 2 key foundational SEL skills to being self-directed learners and collaborating in a personalized learning classroom. The second thing you can do in your classroom to support students' self-awareness, self-reflection, and goal setting is to practice and model self-awareness for yourself, and then give students an opportunity to practice as well. Here are 3 ways that you can do this. The first is to start with yourself. This is really aligned to culturally relevant pedagogy and culturally relevant teaching, which are also awesome resources that I will link below. But reflect on a time that you felt seen as a student. So what about the teacher or what about the classroom environment made you feel seen and safe and respected? Then you can think about, in what ways are you setting up your classroom so that students can feel seen and safe and respected? And maybe what are some practices that you're doing that are unintentionally leaving some students feeling not seen or not safe or not respected? A few questions that can guide this. In what ways are your students' cultures showing up in your classroom? How much do you know about your students' culture? In what ways are students able to bring their culture and their aspects of identity into your classroom. Another reflection point, what are some beliefs that you have about the students in your class? These could be positive, negative, or even neutral, but what are some beliefs that you have that might be influencing the way that you talk to students or the environment that you create for students and how safe they feel? The second thing you can do is to practice self-compassion so that you can support students to practice self-compassion as well. Self-compassion is just showing yourself the same compassion that you would show someone else. So this really supports an environment of mistake making and normalizing mistakes and being okay with making mistakes, which is really, really important in a classroom where students are self-directed learners. The third thing you can try is to use a tool like a mood meter to help students identify and name the emotions that they're feeling. With older students, this could look like a grid with a lot of emotions, and you could give them the option to choose to name a word, to name a quadrant, or even just to name a color. With younger students, you might want more visuals, and there are mood meters that exist for that as well. The third strategy, give students opportunities to practice making choices and reflecting on their learning. That way, when they go into a higher stake situation, like working at a collaborative station for 20 minutes without direct teacher supervision, they've already had opportunities to practice and now they can apply those skills. So what can you actually do to support this? One strategy you can use is to model reflection on progress for yourself. So set a goal for yourself. This could be anything non-academic related, like maybe you want to learn how to bake sourdough bread. Share that goal with your students, and then as you work toward that goal, share your reflections, share the way that you are adjusting course, share how you're feeling about progressing toward that goal with students. The second thing you can try is to use strategies and prompts for reflections with students on a frequent basis. So the Project Zero thinking routines are really, really excellent. I will link them down below. They are some different routines that you can use with students to prompt them to actually reflect on an activity, whether that's something they did alone or something they did collaboratively. And the last thing, number 3, be intentional about building in those opportunities for students to actually practice. It's not enough to just talk about self-awareness. It's not enough to just talk about reflecting. Students actually need to reflect. So if you look at an upcoming lesson plan or maybe a week's worth of lessons, what are the opportunities that exist in that lesson plan where students can actually practice setting a goal, even if it's just a super small goal, like one thing they want to do in class that day, and then reflecting on their progress to that goal. The more often you can build in those practice attempts, the more familiar students will be with them. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope that these strategies are helpful for you in your classroom, or if you're watching this in the summer as you think about going back to school in the fall. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a like or a comment below. You can also follow Education Elements on Twitter or visit our website for more resources.